Alright, welcome back. We're ready to start making the seat and back pieces, and as you can see, we've got the first piece out of the bending form that we need to do that. Just like with the other curved pieces, once we get them out of the bending form, I need to clean up an edge, and then I need to cut these to width. So let me go ahead and take care of that now. All right, here's our work piece cut to rough width. The first piece that we're going to make is this large piece on the front edge of the seat. And as you look at these two pieces, you can immediately tell that there are still three things we need to do to our work piece before it can be attached to the chair frame. We need to cut it to length. We need to cut these notches out so it can fit around the leg. And we've got to cut the curve on the front. And I want to go through each of those three things individually because each of those presented some challenges, and I just want to briefly show you what I did to work through those. So let's get started with cutting this to length. All right, when cutting these to length, I want the angle cuts on the end to be visually appealing. And the look that I like requires me to put the blade at 65 degrees and then to have this piece held flat as it runs through the blade. I can hold it flat if I hold it like this, but the problem with doing it this way should be obvious, as my hands are way too close to the saw blade. No sane person should ever use a table saw like this. So let me show you what I came up with to solve this problem. It's just a little homemade sled. I've got a toggle clamp which will hold the piece in place. There's pencil line here, and I've got the center line on our workpiece marked. So if I line up those two pencil lines, and then use that toggle clamp, I've got the fence set at the right distance. I've got my hands way back here, and so now I can run this through the saw blade safely. I get a consistent angle on the ends of each of these, and then by using the center line as a reference, when I flip it around, I get pieces that are the exact same length as well. And there's our first piece cut to length, the proper angle, and like I said, as we cut the additional pieces by doing it this way, not only will the angle on the ends of these be identical, they'll be the exact same. They'll be exact same length. All right, we've got this cut to length. Now we need to cut the notches out, and I don't know if you can see this, but I've got them marked out in pencil on both ends. Now because this piece is curved, and because the rails on which this attaches are curved, and the front leg as it passes through the notch, it's at an angle. Basically because everything on this chair is curved, these notches have to be cut out at particular angles. Two of these cuts I can do on the bandsaw. The other two I've got to do by hand. But for the cuts on the bandsaw, I had to make this little sled or this little jig that's set at the correct angle. And all I do with this is set the piece on there. Clamp it down to hold it steady and hold it in the correct orientation, and then I just slide the whole thing through to make the cut. So what I'll do is I'll make this cut, then I have to flip the whole thing around and readjust the fence. I'll cut the second one, and then I'll take us over to the workbench and do the two hand cuts, and then these notches will be done. All right, we got the first two cuts made over on the bandsaw. Those are nice and straight. I can't do the next two cuts on the bandsaw because this piece is so long it won't fit through the throat of the bandsaw. So I cut these by hand, and I mark them using a dovetail marker. Just line that up and make the pencil line. So let's see if I can saw a straight line or not. All right, cleaned up those hand cuts with the chisel, a little bit of sandpaper. Looks great. Everything looks nice and straight and clean. Let's take it out of the clamps and take it over to the chair frame and see what it looks like. Nice tight fit. So let's move on to cutting the curve on the front of this piece. All right, we've got our piece cut to length. We've got the notches cut. Now we just need to cut the curve on the front edge of this piece. And as I've said many times already, when making furniture parts, I like to use templates. That way I can get parts that are consistent and easily replicated. And up to this point, I've been using templates that are made out of MDF. MDF makes great templates, except when you have got a curved piece like this. It just doesn't work. So what we use instead is a piece of hardboard, which is flexible. I don't know if you can see it, but on this piece of hardboard there's a line marking the center, just like, and then there's a line, we've already seen the line on our piece marking the center, and so I simply line the two center lines up, make sure the template is even right to left. Put a couple little clamps on here just so to make sure it doesn't move out of the way. And then now we've got the pencil line that represents the front curve of this piece. I'll take this over to the bandsaw and cut this. All right, there is our finished seat piece. It looks great, fits great. So now we can move on to cutting the rest of the seat pieces. All right, you can see we've got 3 more of the curved seat pieces done and ready to go. What I'll do is, just like with the big piece at the front of the seat, I'll get an edge cleaned up, I'll cut these to width, and I'll cut them to length. And then I'll check back in and we'll mark out on these where the screws go, get some pilot holes drilled, and then we'll be able to attach these to the chair frame, and we'll be that much closer to being done. All right, you can see we've got our 6 seat pieces here. They've all been cut to length and width, and they're ready to attach to the chair frame. And what we'll do is we'll start with the large piece at the front of the seat that we worked on previously. I'll get some pilot holes drilled in here for the screws. But one thing to make note of is you can see these front rails that the screw is going to attach into. These are fairly narrow, plus this piece is curved. So I've got to make sure that I get the pilot holes located in the proper location, left to right,
but I also have got to make sure that I drill the pilot holes at the proper angle. Otherwise I run the risk that the screw goes through and pops out the side of the leg piece, which would obviously be a fail. So I've already done the math and know where to locate the pilot holes on these pieces. So I'll mark those out. All right, I've got the pilot holes marked in all 6 of our seat pieces. I just need to get the pilot holes drilled. And as I mentioned, I need to make sure that the pilot holes are drilled at the proper angle so that the screws don't pop out the side of the chair. And the way that I do that is I use the same jig that I used at the table saw to hold these pieces in place to cut them to length. And I do the same thing. I line up that center line, hold it with the toggle clamp, and that ends up with the pilot holes being drilled at the proper angle. So I'll go over to the drill press, get these pilot holes drilled, and then we'll check back in at the chair and start attaching these seat pieces. All right, so here's our chair frame, and we've got the 6 seat pieces all ready to attach. So I'll just get these spaced properly and lined up and get some screws in, and the seat will be done. All right, so there you have it. The 6 seat pieces are now installed. They look great. When we get together next time, we'll install the curved back pieces. We'll plug the screw holes, do any final sanding, and then get ready to put a coat of tung oil on this, and this project will be in the books. So as always, thanks for watching. If you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, and if you got any questions or comments, shoot me an email or just put them in the comments underneath the video. Till then, we'll see you next time.